Good morning and welcome to day 3 of the road trip. As you can see, we're bright and early, packed into the van. We're headed down the road to a town called Dexter, Michigan. We're going there because that's where the labor spokesperson for the Mackinac Center is located. What is the Mackinac Center? Well, it's a right-wing think tank. And the Mackinac Center is blamed by labor leaders for being behind this recent push to get so-called right-to-work legislation passed in Michigan. Now, when the Mackinac Institute talks about labor and unions, they talk about that in the same way that Tim Hudak talks about it. He talks about the need to modernize labor legislation. And what do they mean by modernize? Well, one of the things they mean is that union members that chose not to pay union dues could choose not to do that. But they would still have to, they still would be represented by the union, so it would end up that you would have dues-paying members carrying the load for people that aren't paying any of the freight. Now, the Mackinac Institute, of course, wouldn't put it exactly that way, and that's why we're going down to see them. It wasn't simple or straightforward to arrange this interview. We told them right up front who we were. We're a union. Our starting point is that we don't like right-to-work legislation, and they came back and said, well, we're not so sure about this. And the carrot that I offered them was, look, you can talk directly to 130,000 OPSEU members, but you know what our starting point is. They came back and said, hey, here's a couple of conditions. We want to shoot the interview, to film it at exactly the same time you do, and also we want to see this story before you actually publish it and put it on air. We came back to them and said, sure, we have no problem. You can shoot at the same time we do. You can have your copy. You can see how we treat the interview and how we treat you in our piece. But no, there's no way that we're going to hand over editorial control of this piece to you. They came back and said, well, okay, so here we are, down the road, going towards the Mackinac Center.
I just believe in workers, and I want what's best for workers. At the Mackinac Center, we're pro-worker. I think some, not all, but some of the union leaders in the non-right-to-work states, they take their membership dues for granted, and they feel like they can just spend it on special interests. They can spend it on lavish dinners or salaries or vacations, retreats. So the more I listened to Vincent, the more he began to sound like Tim Hudak. That term union boss is something that's used to demonize union leaders. But what is Mackinac's agenda and where is it really headed? I asked him what was next after right to work and what his concept was for unions. Do they really have a place as far as he's concerned in society? He said, well, we're not pro-union, we're pro-worker, and yes, we think there should be unions, but they should behave themselves. We're pro-worker, and we believe that when unions, especially unions in the private sector, when they are serving their members, when they are not forcing or compelling workers to pay them, then they can have a place. But unfortunately, especially in the non-right-to-work states, they've veered off the path that they were originally intended for, which was to represent workers, and they're spending more money on special interests, and essentially they are taking their members for granted because they know they can have them pay them no matter what they do.
Now, the way the Mackinac Center sees it, and other think tanks like it, is that unions should be associations, obedient. Now, I studied labor history in university, and I know that that's how unions started 150, 200 years ago. They were associations. They did provide insurance for members and fees for burial. But it wasn't enough, and that's why unions fought for collective bargaining. So, that's it for today. Tomorrow, we're going to go down to Columbus, Ohio, and we're going to talk to a mathematician who's used his algorithms, his expertise, to really analyze the effect of these right-to-work laws and to investigate the claim by the Mackinac Institute and others that it actually creates jobs and boosts the economy. He's going to tell us that it actually lowers wages for everybody.